Hello again and welcome back to The Life Kawaii. Today I'm announcing a new sew along project and it's going to be McCalls 7402. So 7402, and it's a very cute harem style jumpsuit. So I'm going to be doing the longer view, which is view D. And this sew along is going to be a little bit different because I don't have a whole lot of time this weekend, but I really want to keep my sewing videos going and keep doing these tutorials. But the editing and everything just takes a while. So this project I thought I could get done really quickly, and I'll try to edit the footage as little as possible. So this will be a little bit different of a sew along. Some of you may like it better, some of you may find it more tedious to watch. I think that this is a really good project for beginners, and hopefully with me cutting less of the footage, you'll actually be able to see how long things really take. So I'm going to try to video as much of doing the whole project as I can from start to finish. That includes the pressing, any hand stitching I might need to do, any interfacing I'm going to apply, and I won't be able to do that for every video that I do in the future, but I will be able to do it for this one because it has so few pieces. So this pattern only has 2 front pieces and 2 back pieces, and then it has some interfacing and some regular facing for the inside. So this is a short enough and easy enough pattern that I can show every step of what I'm doing along the way. And I'm hoping that that will be beneficial to some of you who are literally just starting to sew, who need a super easy project. So I think of every sewing tutorial I've ever done so far, this will be the absolute base level easiest thing. So if you want to start sewing and you're a little nervous about it, this is perfect for you. So without further ado, let's get ready and we'll start immediately. I'm going to set up my iron and my ironing board, pull my hair up out of the way, and we'll begin the project with my beautiful pastel paisley fabric. Okay, so here we go. The first thing that we need to do is attach our interfacing to our pieces 4 and 5. So I will show you quickly. This is piece 4 and this is piece 5, and these are going to be your interfaced facing pieces, and they'll add some structure to your bodice, and they also work as a way to turn in the ends that don't look nice. So that will make more sense when you see it, but you should have 2 pieces of interfacing cut for each of those pieces, and also 2 pieces of your fabric. Okay, so I will take these because I'm working on piece 5 right now and set piece 4 aside. What I want to do now is just go ahead and press my cotton pieces. And that's because whenever I melt the interfacing to these, I don't want to have like lines that I have here. I have some creases there. I don't want to permanently make those creases there, so there we go. If anyone is wondering how I treated my fabric beforehand, I am working with 100% cotton. So I pre-washed it and I also dried it so that it would be shrunk before I started. And I also steamed my fabric and ironed out my pattern pieces before I began cutting. But I had to re-iron these because they got a little wrinkly in the cutting process. Alright, these look nice now. So I'm just going to move one of those out of the way because I'd rather work on one at a time. And I'm still moving all of my sewing equipment into this space. So I don't have the press cloth that I prefer to have whenever I'm adding interfacing to something. So what I've done for now is I've used a spare piece of my cotton fabric, and I already took it to the sink. It's soaking wet, and then I just gently wrung out the excess water. So I'm going to be using that as my press cloth. It's just a spare piece of that paisley fabric. So you want to place your fabric right side down, with the plain side up. Then you're going to put the interfacing with the bubbly textured side, which has the glue, on top of that. And then I'm going to take my press cloth that is very wet, and I'm just going to start laying that on top and basically melting that glue so that it attaches to the fabric. So my iron is set on a cotton setting, and I'm just going to leave that on there for about 30 seconds. Please excuse my noisy iron. You want to gently push on it, but not push on it so intensely that you add wrinkles, because you can leave permanent wrinkles, especially when you're working with interfacing. You do not want that. You also don't want to pick up your iron and do random spots. Make sure you're always working in the same way, moving in the same direction as you go. Otherwise you can make weird air bumps in there. It's very easy to mess up interfacing, but it's also very easy to do it the correct way if you just follow a few basic steps. Okay, I'm just going to flip this over and check it really quickly. Okay, it looks nice. I'm going to add this again so that my wet section is covering up the rest of it. Yes, okay. I love this iron, but I won't lie, it's the noisiest one I've ever had. Especially whenever I'm applying interfacing. But I don't care because I really love this iron. It has a bunch of settings on the left, so instead of actually having to set a temperature, I just put in the little computer section up here what kind of fabric I'm working on, and it sets the temperature for me, and it also will adjust the temperature for me if needed. Okay, so now I'm just going to pick this up gently, flip it over. See how nice that looks? It's very pretty. And then I always like to take my iron, especially if I'm working with cotton, and just apply a little bit of heat to the top. I'll just make it dry a little bit faster. Okay, now I'm just going to set that piece aside and do the same exact thing to the other side. So, right side of the fabric down, wrong side of the fabric up. Here's my interfacing. I'm going to fill for the bubbly textured side, that's this side, because that's where the glue is. And I'll just add that here. Now this piece is pretty spoken for, but if you noticed earlier I pulled this out of a cup, and that is because, and that is because my cup is holding my extra piece. So I always like to soak 2 of these at a time because my bathroom is kind of far from my sewing room. And that will hold all of the excess water. So here's my wet cloth. Very wet cloth. Okay. Alright, that's a good time to check it to make sure you don't have anything weird going on. Alright, now I'll just do this top part. I'm quiet because I'm counting. I'm trying to count to 30 for each of these at least. I get very impatient with interfacing, so sometimes I will stop with the heat earlier than I should, and then I just end up having to do it again. So at this point in my life, I pretty much count to avoid my own impatience. Okay, that looks nice. I'm just going to flip it over. I have one little spot right here that I'm not loving. I'm just going to try ironing that out and see how it looks whenever I flip it over. And there's one little spot here that I don't love. That doesn't look like it's really solidified. So this is a great time if you have your little cup like I do and you have extra. I just can wet that, bring it out a little, and then I have some water to work with. I'm just going to hit this little spot. Oh, that's much better. That spot is gone now. Perfect. That's what I like to see. Now that looks good. Alright, so I will set this aside too. My other piece. Now I have to go wet my cloth again because they're both completely dry and I need something wet to work with. See, they almost don't even fit in the cup when they're dry like that. So let me go ahead and move my piece 5 out of the way. piece 4 is what we're going to work with next, and it's the exact same thing that we just did. Here's the piece 4 sections. I'm going to place them right side down. I'll iron it back out again, just to avoid any unattractive lines. That's good. I have my 2 interfacing sections. I want the bubbly side down, so this one doesn't fit, so that I have to use the other one. So bubble textured side down, that's the one that goes with this one. I should say the pattern piece that goes with this pattern piece. Now before I continue, I have to go re-wet these 2 pieces at the sink, so I will be right back. Alright, I'm ready for round 2. Here we go. This is my faux press cloth. These are actually working really well as a press cloth. I might keep them afterwards. Here we go. Right, let's see how that looks. Looks good here, and this one has no puckers, which is excellent. I'm just going to iron the top. Yay! We only have one more piece left to do. Then we actually get to start the fun part, which is the sewing part. I never enjoy the interfacing part, but I love the way that interfacing looks after it's done, so I won't complain too much about it. It does a really good job with making your piece look more structured. They're also not difficult, just time consuming. So it's okay. Alright, that one looks good now. Interfacing, bubbly side down. Nope. There we go. Okay. Last one, guys. See, it's a whole different side of sewing whenever you stop cutting everything and making every project look like you can do it in 4 hours. That's why sometimes I like not cutting all of this. And if you need to fast forward or you get the point, you always can. That's what's so great about YouTube videos. But I think it's also fun to show how long it actually takes to make a garment, even an easy one like this. Almost done. Oh, you silly iron. There. You'll be okay. Let's see if we have any puckers. Nope. Oh, maybe here. Maybe just a little bit there. I'm going to take my excess water because there's plenty of it. And just put it right on that little spot. Oh, much better. Just flip it over. Give it a good ironing, and then that is finally the last part of applying the interfacing to pieces 4 and 5. Apply your own interfacing to pieces 4 and 5, and then come join me again. And we will start sewing up this very, very cute harem style jumper. Now, before we can actually start our sewing process, I need to make sure that I have all of my markings in place. So this is my piece 2, my pattern piece 2. And I'm just going to mark all of these dots because they're important for stitching later. I have 2 dots here. And I have my washout cloth marker, the one that I like very much. I'm just going to mark these little spots. Alright, so we have 2 there at the top. We also have 2 at the corner here, so I want to make sure that I get those. Alright, I'll do my big circle here. That takes care of that one. And then we should have at least one more. Yes, there's another one here. The table is a little small for pieces this large. Okay, so I'll just line up this one. Ha! That one will barely fit on the table, but it will fit. So here we go. A little hole in this one, and then mark the circle. And I believe that takes care of everything on this one side. I'm just checking all the way around the perimeter. Center back, there's also a waistline dot. I'm not entirely sure if we need that one or not. I'm going to mark it just in case, because I would rather do it now while it's all here and it's easy to find. I'll hold this up to the camera so you can see which one caught me off guard. It definitely looks like, now that I'm looking at it more, it definitely looks like it needs to be marked. Okay, so let me show you what that one looked like. There, it says waistline, so this circle I went ahead and marked it, but I wasn't sure if they were just trying to say, hey, this is the waistline, so I went ahead and marked it. So you should mark that just in case you need it. And then at the top here you have a small dot and also another small dot around the sleeve area here that needs to be marked. Then when you go to the other side, you have the top circle that needs to be marked, and also the bottom one, and then there's another one at the very bottom. So all of these markings are important for once we start stitching these large pieces together. So the next thing I want to do, I'm just going to take that piece 2 because I have 2 of those. I'm going to flip it over and I'm going to make all the same markings I just made on that other side to this side also, because I need both sides. So here's my pattern piece, and I'm just going to do that exact same thing, line it up and mark all of my dots. Alright, there's one. There's one. I'm just going to do a quick mark for the triangle up here. And I have my waist, my waistline. It's right here, the big circle right there. Going to the bottom, nothing on that one, so let's turn it. Nothing on this side. And it again. There we have one that needs to be marked. Marking the circle right there. And then there's one more at the top here. Mark that one. Alright, and that's all of our markings for piece 2. So I'm just going to take that, move it, and set it aside. Now we're going to look at piece 1 and do the same thing. So let's see, we have 2 dots here at the top. So I'm just going to use my pen, my actual pen, to break open those little holes and put my markings in. Alright, there's one. And there's one. Now, do we have any more down the side? Any markings down the side there? No. Do we have any at the bottom? No. There is another one here. Depending on what style you're sewing, you may not need all of these. I'm doing view D, and view D seems to have a little bit more places that need to be marked than the other views. And then I have one more here at the top. Alright, that takes care of all of my markings. So at this point, for the whole project, what we've done is we've cut everything out. We added the interfacing to our facing sections. And we made all of the markings for all of the pieces. And now I've just set those aside because they're huge. So now we can finally start sewing things. So now let's get ready to start sewing.